Hi, this is Fern G. Carr, website www.ferngzcarr.com. Welcome to my Facebook Live reading, Afterwards, Dark Humor, Part 1, Afterwards. My name is Fern G. Carr, and I'm thrilled to be here with you on Facebook Live today. I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy weekend to join me for half an hour. I want to be very sure to thank the League of Canadian Poets and the Canada Council for the Arts for their sponsorship. It's very, very much appreciated. Now, another thing that I've mentioned in my previous readings is that this is quite different for me because I've done a lot of in-person readings, not too many online like this, live streamed. So I'm introducing myself here. I'll give you a little bit of background information about me, and if you need or want to find out more, you're welcome to visit my Wikipedia page. If you look up Fern G. Carr, you need the G and the Z on Wikipedia. My webpage is www.ferngzcarr.com. I have a YouTube channel under Fern G. Carr. Anyway, so I'm a full member of the League of Canadian Poets, a member of the Federation of BC Writers. I write and translate my poetry in 6 different languages, although the reading today is going to be all in English. My poetry collection is Shards of Crystal, published by Silver Bow Publishing. And I've been published about 700 times worldwide. And although I've received several honors, one of the most profound is having one of my poems in permanent orbit around the planet Mars on NASA's MAVEN spacecraft. So that was a huge, huge thrill for me. So again, if you're joining me for the first time, the idea of this series is that I would do a themed poetry reading every Saturday for the first 4 Saturdays of the month of May. Now this is my 3rd one, so I just have one left after this. And today's themes are afterwards and dark humor. So I'm going to read for about 20 minutes, and then afterwards I'll respond to your comments and answer your questions. Okay, so the first theme, afterwards. Now, there are a lot of euphemisms and quirky phrases to describe death. So and-so's number was up, they kicked the bucket, they went to their eternal rest, they slipped away, they gave up the ghost, they're in a better place, they went to meet their maker, and on and on. Now, I didn't want to just label this theme death because that's, quite frankly, a bit stark. So I thought afterwards words would be a more poetic title. And the poems for the first theme, because as I said, there are going to be 2 themes per reading. Afterwards, we'll talk about various concepts surrounding death, and all of these poems from this theme are from my book. So the first poem I'm going to start off with actually has a Latin title, Somnus erat demonstrandum. Now, quod erat demonstrandum, or QED, is Latin for which was to be proved. So those of you who are into math, when you do formal math proofs and you've proven something, you put a QED at the end. I kind of fooled around with that title. That expression, somnus, is Latin for the word sleep. So I combined the 2, and that's the title of this one. Somnus erat demonstrandum. Transitive property of equality. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Lessons learned from parents. A string of pearls of wisdom passed on from generation to generation, dispensing one bead at a time, lest we become overwhelmed. Therefore, if wisdom comes with age, and age before beauty, then wisdom comes before beauty, sleep. The transitive property of parental reason, SED. Somnus erat demonstrandum. Carpe diem versus beauty sleep. To slumber or not to slumber. Don't sleep your life away. My father's dictum still haunts me with its irony. Having died prematurely, he now sleeps his life away. So my next poem, Return to Sender, has a local flavor to it. Here in the Okanagan, there's Lake Okanagan Resort. And years ago, this is based on something that I heard about, but as I say, it occurred years ago. There was a very, very steep road leading up to the resort. Now it's since been repaired, it's fine, it's safe, but this poem is based on that. Now the epigraph, or the little quote that I'm going to use at the beginning of this poem, will be very familiar to everyone. So this poem is called Return to Sender. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. And that's a description on the General Post Office in New York City. No snow, no rain, no heat, no gloom of night, just good old-fashioned sunshine enveloped the mail truck as it doggedly grappled its way up to the summit, passing conifers and homes nudged slightly askew by their mountain post. On a glorious Disney morning, flowers a-bloomin' and birds a-tweetin', the postmistress steered her van with one hand while she sorted mail with the other. Experienced eyes darting back and forth. Road, mail, road, mail, road, mail, until the road got lost in the mail and she found herself being returned to sender, truck plummeting into the azure lake below. A splash, silence, eternity. Now she is but local folklore, stamped into memory, shared with tourists on lazy summer days. A few years ago, I actually attended an open casket funeral for the first time, and it was very, very unsettling. I guess that it's not only that we are facing the concept of our own mortality, but it forces a ceremony like that forces us to face it up close. And you don't want to look, but then you think, well, I have to look. It's just your curiosity gets the better of you. And so psychologically, to process the event, I wrote this poem, and it's called Why Are the Dead So Still? Arms crossed, lying motionless in an open casket, he gazes upward through closed eyelids. Maybe if I look hard enough, I'll see him flinch or wriggle his nose at the acrid smell of incense rising from the censer. Holy water is sprinkled on his body. It tickles. So why doesn't he laugh? Proudly dressed in his finery, he is unaware of us as we mill past to say our final goodbyes. We stare at his waxen appearance, wondering when our turn will come, and whisper kind comments to which we rudely receive no response. Death is a stubborn master. It compels complete passivity. We are told that he is at peace, that he has attained eternal happiness. Not a physical happiness, surely. He can't even laugh anymore. When the casket is closed and he is laid to rest, he is unable to breathe a sigh of relief, punctuating a lifetime of pain. Because the dead must be still. That is the rule. Okay, A Funeral in the Rain is a poem that I actually wrote as a visual poem. So I originally wrote it in the shape of a headstone with a plot, and inside the drawing I had a lot of fancy fonts in different sizes. And then I realized, it would be a little bit difficult to read, because when your publisher sends your book out to be published, instead of it being on 8.5 by 11, it's, I believe it's 6 by 9 inches, so everything shrinks down. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have this change to regular stanza form. A funeral in the rain. Under a slate-colored sky, raindrops pelt umbrellas balanced on long legs, flamingo-like above weary heads. Silent tears blend with the rain and trickle onto the drenched grass. All else is quiet, except for the drone of a prayer for the deceased and the occasional whoosh of a distant car splashing through puddles, oblivious to the grief of those who mourn. As the service concludes, some linger in the rain-soaked cemetery to pay their respects to loved ones who have since passed on to their final resting place, a place where it doesn't matter why the bereaved weep, for the deceased or for themselves, a grim reminder of their own mortality. They shed tears that subside like the rain as the clouds pass and those above ground depart to resume their daily routine. Liminality is a bit of a philosophical poem that I wrote, and I muse about how our lives are essentially like a blip in time, how we come and go, and some people often aren't remembered. Liminality. Liminality, transience, undefined borders where the spume of salty swells meets sandy shores, surf meeting sand, sand meeting surf, where footprints of the soul soon disappear, much like the life they possess. Liminality, transience. And then for my last poem for this section, it's called Who Will Weep for Me? And I was actually inspired from a scene in Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, if you've ever read that book. And that's, I believe, where the boys fake their death and so that they can attend their own funeral and hear what goes on there. So this poem is called Who Will Weep for Me? When the sun finally sets and I draw my last breath, who will weep for me? After I have passed on, the physical gone, bereft of reality, let my spirit rise and serve as my eyes, so I may know who wept for me. Acknowledgements. All poems contained herein copyright Fern G. Carr. Part 1 is an excerpt from the original full video, which was kindly sponsored by the League of Canadian Poets and the Canada Council for the Arts. Thanks very much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like, and please be sure to subscribe. For more poetry, my book Shards of Crystal is available on Amazon. Thanks again, and stay tuned for a new video every Wednesday.